"Honey, go let my lover in," my cheating wife said soft as a whisper. Those words just floated there, cutting through my calm like a knife ripping apart the last bits of my self-control. I couldn't take my eyes off her, my insides churning with this wild mix of fury and shock. Here was the woman I'd poured my whole heart into, the one I'd trusted more than anyone, standing there with this peaceful little smile, like she'd just asked me to grab the ketchup or something normal. My hands balled up tight by my sides, her backstabbing hitting me hard, sinking deep into my gut. But hold up, before I get too far into this messed up tale, drop a comment below and tell me where you're tuning in from. Oh, and if you're into these kinds of wild stories, hit that subscribe button and smack the notification bell so you don't miss a single twist. I'm Tom Reynolds, 32 years old, and I've been fixing machines as a mechanical engineer my whole adult life, got a real knack for figuring stuff out. I'm 5 feet 11 inches, with blonde hair and blue eyes, and I've kept in shape from all those years kicking soccer balls, slapping hockey pucks, and running trails. For me, being honest and loyal is everything. It's what I thought held my marriage to Claire together, rock solid. I've always been a hands-on guy. Tinkering with an old RV in my spare time keeps me grounded, shows off that practical side of me I'm proud of. My wife, Claire Sullivan, she's 32 too, and man, she's a knockout, full of charm and the kind of beauty that stops people in their tracks. She's 5 feet 7 inches, with perfect skin, these bright blue eyes that sparkle, and a body tone from hitting the gym hard. She's the type folks can't help but notice. Thing is, she's got this stubborn streak that kicks in when she's dead set on being right, and it can be a lot. We'd been married 5 years, and from the outside, it looked like we had it all: trust, respect, love, and a friendship tighter than most. But under all that, trouble was brewing, threatening to crack our so-called perfect little world. Lately, Claire couldn't stop obsessing over stuff she thought she'd missed out on before tying the knot with me. She loved me, no question, I felt that deep down, but there was this hole inside her, gnawing at her because she hadn't lived like her buddies had back in the day. Hearing their wild tales just piled on the regret, making her feel like she'd skipped out on something big. I didn't see it coming at first. I figured she was just daydreaming, nothing serious. But then she kept bringing up how free I'd been before we met, griping about her own lack of adventures, and it started eating at me, making me restless. When she laid it all out, it rocked the trust we'd built, left me dazed, wrestling with why our life wasn't enough for her anymore. Our talks turned into these heavy, awkward messes, and she started pulling away, lost in whatever she thought she'd left behind. That slow burn of tension took over our marriage, dragging us face to face with a test of our love, our loyalty, and the trust one thought we'd never lose. It all kicked off one Tuesday night over a quiet dinner I'd put together. I'd cooked up Claire's favorite, grilled salmon with some roasted veggies and a cold glass of white wine, just trying to keep things cozy like always. We were in our groove, swapping little stories from work and chuckling over the dumb stuff that happens day to day. But once the dishes were empty and I topped off our wine, something shifted in her. Claire wasn't the same. Those warm, twinkly eyes of hers. They turned sharp, intense in a way I hadn't clocked before, and it threw me off. "Hey, Tom," she started, her voice steady but with this edge that meant business. "There's something I've been chewing on for a while now, and I gotta get it off my chest with you." I put my fork down, my forehead creasing a little. "What's up, Claire?" I said, picking up on that serious vibe she was throwing out there, wondering where this was headed. She paused, like she was fishing for the perfect way to say it. "You've heard me mention how I feel like I skipped some big experiences before we settled down, right? Well, I've been mulling over how I could deal with that without screwing us up." My gut twisted up tight as soon as she said that. "All right, keep going," I muttered, my voice shaky, half worried, half curious about what bomb she was about to drop. Claire sucked in a big breath before laying it out. "I've been thinking I need something, like a one-time freebie, a hall pass kinda deal. Just a shot to try something new in the bedroom with somebody else." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks, just dangling there, loud and ugly. I blinked hard, my brain scrambling to make sure I'd heard her right. Wait, a hall pass? I echoed, disbelief dripping off every syllable. She gave a little nod, doing her best to keep it together. Yeah, Tom, just once. This isn't about falling out of love or kicking you to the curb, it's something I've gotta do for me, to shake this itch I can't stop scratching. I slumped back in my chair, totally floored. Claire, are you for real right now, asking me to greenlight you hooking up with another guy? I couldn't believe it, my head was spinning, trying to wrap around what she'd just thrown at me. Yep, she said, steady as a rock, though I caught a tiny crack in her voice. I'm laying it all out because I've been straight with you about this nagging feeling. It's not that I don't love you, it's about a piece I feel I've missed. I honest to God think this could fix things for us down the road. My jaw locked up, and I could feel my face getting hot, anger and pain slugging it out inside me. Fix us, Claire? How the hell does you sleeping with some dude make our marriage better? She scooted closer, her voice dropping softer, like she was trying to cushion the blow. Look, it's about me feeling complete. I've been turning this over in my head for ages, and I'm convinced that if I can just get this one thing out of my system, it'll free me up to be all in with you. You had your wild days before me, Tom, I never got that shot. I shook my head hard, my fingers digging into the table's edge. Claire, I'm crazy about you. I put a ring on your finger because I wanted you, only you, for the rest of my life. You're telling me this ain't about love, but how's it not? This would flip everything we've got upside down. She stretched her hand across the table, her tone turning desperate. It won't, Tom, I swear. I'm spilling my guts here because I love you so damn much. If I didn't, I'd have kept it hidden. I'd never sneak around behind your back, never have, never will. That's why I'm begging for your okay on this. I stared at her hand touching mine, my head a freaking tornado of feelings. Are you even listening to yourself, Claire? You're asking me to nod and smile while you trash everything our marriage is built on, trust, sticking together, being true. How do you think I can just sign off on that? She didn't catch my words, though. She slid her hand up to my cheek, letting it rest there, like that'd fix it. Her eyes were shiny, teetering on tears. I'm asking because I've got faith you'll get it. You've always been my rock, my best buddy. I know this sucks to hear, but it doesn't have to kill us, it could even make us tougher, tighter. I yanked my hand back, my voice cutting sharp from the hurt. Tougher? You think me sitting here while you waltz off with some guy is gonna pump me up? Claire, this ain't some little favor, it'd rip me apart. Her face stiffened a bit, and she got all defensive. You're blowing this way out of proportion, Tom. This is about me chasing something I need to figure out for myself, it's got nothing to do with you. I shot up from my chair, pacing the floor like a caged animal. Nothing to do with me, Claire. I'm your damn husband. Every move you make hits me right in the chest, how can you stand there and say this wouldn't change us? Things just went downhill from there, both of us digging our heels in deeper. For Claire, this was her grabbing back a chunk of herself she felt she'd lost by settling down young. She was dead set that being upfront about it was the right play, thinking it'd somehow make our marriage stronger in the end. To her, it was just a quick side trip, a way to scratch that itch she'd been carrying around before locking in for good with me down the line. Tom, Claire said, her voice shaky but dead set, I've poured every bit of myself into this marriage. You've got my whole heart, I love you like crazy, but this feeling's eating at me, and I can't just shove it down and let it rot inside me. That'd screw us both over. I quit pacing and spun around to face her, my face all twisted up with pure hurt. Claire, I've laid it all out for you too, my trust, my love, every ounce of loyalty I've got. And now you're standing there saying it ain't enough? That I ain't enough for you? She shook her head fast, tears pouring down her cheeks. No, Tom, it's not about you falling short, you're plenty, always have been. This is just something I've gotta do for myself, not because you're missing anything. My voice broke as I shot back, do you even get what you're putting me through here? You want me to just sit around while you head off to be with some other guy? Act like it's all cool when it's ripping my insides to shreds? Claire stepped closer, her voice easing up a little. I'm not telling you to fake it, Tom. What I need is for you to have faith in me, to know this doesn't touch how much I'm in love with you. I let out this empty, sour laugh. Faith in you, Claire? That's the exact thing this would torch. How am I supposed to look at you the same after something like that? The room went dead quiet, her words and mine just hanging there, heavy as hell. Right then, it hit us both, this wasn't just about some dumb hall pass anymore. It was about the whole damn base of our marriage, and whether it could hold up with all these cracks starting to show. Claire's little fling with Ethan kicked off easy enough, or at least that's what she kept telling herself. It started with us cracking jokes during those boring team meetings at work, just some light back and forth to kill the monotony. Ethan's this young hotshot coworker, full of swagger and charm, and I'll admit, Claire got a kick out of it, found it fun and kinda flattering. At first, he'd toss her these sly little compliments, stuff like how quick she was in presentations, but it didn't take long for him to get more personal. Pretty soon, they were grabbing lunch together, and the chats? They weren't about work anymore. She'd giggle too loud at his dumb lines and lean in way closer than she needed to. Ethan saw she was into it and started pushing the line. Claire, you're unreal, he told her one time, his voice all low and smooth. I don't get how any guy could ever sleep on what you've got. She'd laugh it off, but those words stuck with her, rattling around in her head. She swore it was no big deal, just a little ego boost, a quick break from the daily grind. But when Ethan floated the idea of hitting up happy hour, she didn't even blink before saying yes. Over cocktails, things got cozier, lots of flirty jabs and hints that weren't exactly subtle anymore. One night, after a couple drinks, Ethan slid in close. You know, he murmured, real soft, if I was your husband, I'd keep you in my sights every damn second. Her cheeks went red, heart pounding, but she didn't back off. Instead, she locked eyes with him, her mind racing down a rabbit hole. That thrill, that feeling of somebody new wanting her, it hooked her hard. So when Ethan pitched dinner and dancing for the next week, she only paused a split second before jumping at it. By then, the whole, just kidding around, excuse was long gone. She was towing a line way past innocent, and she knew it. Still, she told herself it was all part of figuring herself out, sorting through whatever she was feeling. Meanwhile, I couldn't pretend I didn't see Claire changing. At first, it was small stuff, her phone lighting up more than usual, her ducking out with work stuff excuses. But as weeks dragged on, it got too obvious to shrug off. She used to be all warm and right there with me, but now? She was off somewhere else, her laughs got rare, and her focus was anywhere but home. One night, Claire strolled in way later than usual, buzzing with energy but acting all distant. Tough day at the office? I asked, sliding a glass of wine her way, trying to keep it casual. She paused, then answered with this fake breezy tone. Yeah, just swamped with work, you know the drill. But I caught a whiff of some cologne on her shirt that sure as hell wasn't mine. A week later, while I was folding laundry, I dug a restaurant receipt out of her pocket, 2 meals, a bottle of wine, dated one of those late work nights she'd been talking about. My stomach dropped, doubt creeping in like a bad chill. I didn't call her out right then. Instead, I decided to keep my eyes peeled and watch her closer. I started pulling back, not sure how to deal with the mess in my head. I'd hide out in the garage, tinkering with that old RV, hoping the mindless work would straighten me out. But the gap between us just kept widening. Claire was so wrapped up with Ethan and whatever was churning inside her, she didn't even clock how far I'd drifted. One night, lying in bed, I tried to close that distance. Hey, Claire, are we good? I asked, keeping my voice steady, careful not to spook her. She whipped her head toward me, caught off guard. Yeah, we're fine, she shot back too fast. What's making you ask that? I stared up at the ceiling, my chest feeling like it was in a vice. You've just been off lately, I feel like you're slipping out of reach. She let out a sigh, waving off my worry. Tom, I love you, quit stressing over nothing. She pecked my cheek and flipped off the light, but her words didn't ease the knot inside me. In the dark, all alone, those doubts were crushing me. The woman I'd die for was fading away, and I couldn't figure out how to haul her back. I kept telling myself it was nothing, but deep down, I knew something was seriously messed up. As the days stretched into weeks, that nagging suspicion turned into a storm I couldn't dodge, one that could wreck everything I'd busted my ass to build. I plopped down at the kitchen table, my hands locked together tight. Claire sat across from me, sipping her coffee, looking cagey. I sucked in a shaky breath and laid it out. Claire, we gotta hash this out. I've been trying to keep it together, but I can't pretend everything's fine anymore. She eased her mug down slow, dodging my eyes. Tom, we've been over this, I've laid it all out for you. Why do you keep dragging it back up? I leaned in, my gaze begging her to hear me. Because it's tearing us apart, Claire. I love you more than life, and it feels like you're slipping through my fingers. We can't just sit on this and hope it fixes itself. Let's get some counseling, talk to somebody who can help us sort this crap out. She huffed, arms folding up tight like a shield. Counseling, Tom? This isn't some big meltdown. It's just me needing to handle something for myself. You're blowing it way out of proportion. My voice cracked, raw with feeling. How can you even say that? You're asking me to be cool with you stepping out on us. That's not some little thing, Claire, that's the whole damn ballgame. Her lips thinned out, and she finally met my stare. Tom, I'm not cheating on you, I've been upfront about this. It's not about love or us, it's about me, and I'm asking you to have some faith in me. My hands were shaking as I raked them through my hair. Faith in you, Claire? You want me to trust you while you're gearing up to be with another guy? Do you have any clue how bad that stabs me? Her frustration boiled over, spilling out sharp. Tom, you're overreacting. I'm coming clean with you because I respect you. I could have snuck around, but I didn't. Doesn't that mean a damn thing? My voice climbed, thick with pain. Being straight with me doesn't make this right, Claire. You're still expecting me to swallow something that trashes everything our marriage stands for. Claire shoved her chair back hard and jumped up, stalking around the room. How come you can't just look at this my way, Tom? You had your wild times, hell, you've been with more girls than I've got fingers to count. Me? I've only ever had you. I'm just asking for one shot, and you're acting like the sky's falling. I got to my feet too, my fists balled up tight by my hips. Claire, this is my sky crashing down, at least for me it is. You don't get to stack your choices up against mine like that. I picked you. I locked in with you. She whirled around, her voice cutting like a blade. And I'm still picking you, damn it. This doesn't shift a thing about that. You're so hung up on what I do that you're missing what I'm saying. This is me chasing some peace over stuff I never got to try, not me loving you any less. My chest was pumping hard as I tried to keep my voice from breaking. If you love me like you claim, how can you go through with this when you know it's shredding me to pieces? Her face softened for a second, but it didn't last. I'm doing it, 'cause I think we're tough enough to handle it, Tom. You're the one turning this into a mountain when it doesn't have to be. Once it's over, we'll keep going, I swear it. I shook my head, disbelief and heartache plastered all over me. You want me to just shrug off a stab that hasn't even landed yet? How can't you see the damage this is already doing to us? Claire spun away, clutching the counter's edge. Tom, I love you to death, but I've gotta have this. If you love me for real, you'll get where I'm coming from." Her words slammed into me like a sucker punch, and I just stood there, staring at her back as she marched out of the room. For the first time, this heavy feeling sank in. Claire wasn't budging, and worse, she was dead sure she was in the right. Saturday morning rolled in, and the air was thick with tension as Claire moved through the house, her heels tapping the wood floors like she had a mission. She'd spent the night before getting ready, her bag was packed neat and waiting by the door. I was slumped in the living room, eyes glued to the TV, but I wasn't watching a damn thing, just lost in my head. She stepped in, her voice quiet but firm. "Tom, I've gotta say bye before I head out." I didn't even turn, my jaw locked up as I dragged in a deep breath. "Claire, don't do it," I said low, my tone dripping with desperation and bone-deep tiredness. "You're stepping over a line you can't walk back from. You leave through that door, and nothing's the same anymore." Her fingers tightened around her bag strap, hesitating. "I've laid it all out for you, Tom, this doesn't change what we've got. It's just something I need to square away for me, so I can be all here with you after." I finally looked at her, my eyes bloodshot and full of shock. "You keep saying that, but you think this is about you getting closure? You're wrecking me while you're at it. Claire, if you go, don't expect me to be waiting when you stroll back in." Her lip trembled, but she pulled herself together quick. "I hate that it's hitting you like this, but I've gotta believe you'll come around someday. I love you, Tom, this is about me finding my calm." I shot up, fists clenched tight. "You're calm? You think banging some other guy's gonna bring you that? You're ripping us to shreds, for what, a quick hookup?" Her expression turned stone cold as she snatched her bag and headed for the exit. "It's not a hookup, it's one time, Tom, that's all. I'll be back Sunday, and we'll figure it out then." My voice broke as I yelled after her. "You walk out now, Claire, and we're finished, you hear me? Done." She froze for a second, hand on the knob, then whispered, "Bye, Tom," without even glancing back. The door shut with this soft thud, and I crumpled onto the couch, my heart busting into a million pieces. That sound, it was like a damn funeral bell, ringing out the end of something I used to think nothing could break. That I just sat there for what felt like forever, not saying a word, my hands shaking like crazy and my chest pumping hard under all that heavy emotion. Tears were streaming down my face, no holding them back, as I tried to wrap my head around Claire choosing this path. But as the clock ticked on, something in me flipped. This icy, clear-headed feeling started pushing out the gut-wrenching sadness. It hit me, if she could toss this decision out there so easy, I had to look out for myself. This wasn't just about keeping my pride intact, it was about making damn sure I'd survive the fallout. I swiped at my wet face, got up, and trudged to the bedroom. I started packing my suitcase, slow and steady, stuffing in my clothes and whatever else was mine. Every shirt I folded, every zipper I pulled, felt like me clawing back a little control over this mess. I left behind the stuff tied to our marriage, the pictures framed up on the dresser, that wedding album stashed in the closet. Couldn't stomach even glancing at them. Then I pulled up our joint bank account on my laptop. Took a big breath and moved half the money into a new account I'd set up yesterday. This wasn't me trying to stick it to her, it was about making sure I had enough to pick up the pieces if it came to that. I killed our shared credit cards too, jotting down a note for Claire with the info she'd need to get her own. My last move was sitting down at the kitchen table to write her a letter. I let everything spill out onto the paper, the hurt from her betrayal, how final this all felt. My hand was trembling around the pen, but my words came out sharp and steady. "You picked your road, Claire," I scratched out. "Now I've gotta pick mine. I won't be here when you get back. This ain't how I wanted things, but you didn't leave me any other way." By the time night rolled around, I'd loaded all my stuff into the RV, that old thing I'd poured my heart into fixing up, dreaming it'd carry us on adventures together someday. Now it was my ticket out, my way to ditch the ruins of our marriage and start over. As I peeled out, watching the house shrink in my rearview, my head was a damn war zone, pain slugging it out with anger, and this tiny spark of hope trying to muscle in. I had no clue what was waiting down the line, but one thing I knew for sure: I couldn't stick around in a life where my love and loyalty got trampled. The road stretched out ahead like it was promising me a fresh start. That ache in my chest wasn't going anywhere yet, but I told myself I'd take it day by day, letting the highway steer me towards something better. The guy who'd built everything around Claire? He had to figure out how to build something new, just for himself. Claire showed up at the hotel, her stomach all knotted up with a mix of nerves and a weird kind of thrill. The last week with Tom had been nothing but fights and tension, and yeah, she hated how they'd left it, but she kept telling herself this weekend would sort her head out. She smoothed out her dress, fiddled with her hair in the lobby mirror, and shot Ethan a quick text, "I'm here." A couple minutes later, Ethan strutted in, all cocky and grinning wide. "Hey, Claire," he said, pulling her into a quick hug. His cologne hit her like a wall, too strong, and while she used to think his confidence was kinda hot, now it just seemed fake, like he was trying too hard. They headed up to the suite he'd booked, and Claire's mind kept drifting back to Tom. His shaky, broken voice kept ringing in her ears, "If you go through with this, we're done." She shook it off, forcing herself to stay in the moment. This was supposed to be about her, about grabbing back a chunk of herself she'd lost. Inside, Ethan cracked open some wine and flipped on the stereo. I sat there on the couch, stiff as a board, gripping my glass like it'd keep me steady. He plopped down next to me, his hand landing on my thigh. "You look gorgeous," he said, his voice dropping low and smooth that I plastered a smile on my face for Claire. "Thanks," I said back, keeping it short. I took a quick gulp of my wine, hoping it'd settle the jitters rattling through me. But when Ethan leaned in to kiss me, this weird hesitation washed over me out of nowhere. His lips came at me fast, all hunger and no softness, like he was in a rush to get somewhere. "Relax, Claire, it's fine," I muttered to myself after a beat. "No need to freak out." But as the night dragged on, I couldn't shake this growing unease. Ethan's attempts at being sexy came off sloppy, his slick charm buried under this selfish vibe that turned me off. By the time we hit the bedroom, I was just lying there, staring at the ceiling, feeling empty and totally checked out. When it was over, Ethan rolled off with this cocky grin. "Man, you're something else," he said, brushing my hair back like he'd won a prize. His fingers on me felt wrong, intrusive, and I could barely muster a half-hearted smile. "Yeah, thanks," I mumbled, turning my head away. Come morning, I couldn't dodge the truth anymore. This wasn't the freeing moment I'd built up in my head. I didn't feel strong or alive, I felt hollowed out. That buzz I used to get thinking about Ethan? Gone, swapped out for this gnawing guilt and a pile of regret. I sat on the bed's edge while Ethan was in the shower, staring at my phone, thumbing through old texts from Tom. My hands shook as I tapped out, "Tom, I love you, please tell me you're alright." But I couldn't hit send, facing what I'd done was too much to stomach. Ethan strolled out, towel wrapped loose around his waist, flashing me this lazy smirk. "Up for another go?" he tossed out, casual as hell. My gut twisted. "Nah, I'm good," I said, faking a little laugh. "Not feeling so hot." He just shrugged, like it didn't faze him, and it hit me how different he was from Tom. This guy didn't give a damn about me, not really, just about chasing the next high. And I'd thrown everything on the line for this. Meanwhile, my weekend with Ethan was tearing Tom's world apart. After I'd packed up and peeled out from the house, I ended up at some quiet rest stop, just parked there, stuck. My head was spinning with flashes of Claire, her grin, her laugh, the way she'd stabbed me in the back. The hurt was so bad it choked me. I yanked out my phone, glaring at Claire's name on the screen. My thumb hovered over call, but I froze. What was I even gonna say? Having a blast? Worth it? It all tasted sour and pointless. Instead, I flipped through our pictures, every one slicing me open, reminders of the life we'd pieced together. Our wedding day shot stopped me cold, her bright smile, the way she'd looked at me like I was her whole world. Now it just felt like a sick joke. Night came, and I was alone in the RV, sipping whiskey slow. Each swallow dragged my thoughts darker. Had I let Claire down somehow? Could I have played this different? But no matter how I twisted it, it always landed on her. This was her call, not mine. By Sunday morning, I made up my mind to shield myself from more of this hell. I cracked open my laptop and started typing an email to our closest folks, friends, family, laying it out. Claire's chasing something outside our marriage, I wrote. I've fought tooth and nail to hold us together, but she's picked her path. I set it to send Monday morning, and putting it down gave me this odd kind of peace, even if my heart was still screaming. I watched the sunrise through the RV window and whispered to myself, gotta let her go. Didn't feel any better saying it, though. The weekend crawled by, every hour stretching out forever. I knew when Claire came back, the woman I'd loved would be lost to me for good. Our marriage was already just a ghost story, one I'd haul around like a scar that'd never fade. The house felt creepy quiet as I went through my stuff, packing it up slow and steady. Every piece I tossed into my suitcase was like a chunk of the life I was ditching behind me. Our big, happy grins and those old photos? Now they just mocked me, a nasty echo of what we used to be. I stopped for a sec, gripping a picture frame, then put it back on the shelf. Looking closer, I noticed my dad had snipped out some private shots, one caught right before we cleared that shelf. Proof was there, the photo was fixed up nice and clean now. Let her look at it, I thought to myself. Let her stew on what she's throwing away. In our closet, I just grabbed the essentials I couldn't live without. Zipping up my duffel, I stole a glance at Claire's side, her bright dresses hanging all neat, shoes lined up perfect. I shook my head, fresh waves of anger and pain slamming into me. She's the one who picked this mess, not me, I muttered under my breath. I plunked down at the kitchen table and fired up my laptop to write the email I'd been dreading. The words trickled out slow, each one loaded with hurt but sharp with the clear head I'd finally got. Hey, friends and family, I started typing, I've gotta tell you something I never saw coming. Claire and I are splitting. She's chasing something outside our marriage, even after I begged her to think twice. I want y'all to know I've fought like hell to keep us together, but this is on her, not me. I love her more than I can say, but I can't stick around where trust and sticking it out don't mean a damn thing anymore. Give me some room to breathe while I figure out this rough road ahead, alright? I sat there a minute before setting it to send Monday morning, my finger hovering over the button. That choice sat heavy on me, pressing down like a brick, but I knew I couldn't back off now. Last thing, I grabbed a pen and wrote Claire a letter. Every word felt like I was signing off for good. Claire, I scratched out, I wanted to say this face to face, but I can't stomach seeing you after what you pulled. You made your call, so here's mine. Hope you track down whatever you're hunting for, but I ain't gonna be here when you roll back in. Goodbye, Tom. I dropped the letter on the counter, plunking my wedding ring on top like a final stamp. Took one last sweep around the house, slung my bags over my shoulder, and climbed into the RV. I hit the gas and didn't glance back as I rolled out. Claire pulled up Sunday afternoon, the sun dipping low and throwing long shadows across the driveway. She stopped for a beat, noticing my truck wasn't there, and her chest got tight. Probably just out blowing off steam, she told herself, trying to shake off the worry creeping in. Stepping inside, the air felt thick and dead. Tom, she called out, her voice bouncing off the walls with no answer. Her heels clacked loud on the hardwood as she wandered through. In the living room, her eyes locked on the empty spots where my stuff used to be. The bookshelf, stripped of my old novels, just stared back bare. Her gut sank, the truth hitting her like a punch before she even found the letter. In the kitchen, she froze, her breath catching at the sight of an envelope with her name scrawled on it. My wedding ring sat there on top, a brutal sign of the life she'd smashed to bits. Her hands were shaking as she picked it up, slipping the ring on her finger for a second before yanking it off. She unfolded the paper, tears blurring her eyes as she read my words. Every line slammed into her, the weight of what she'd done crashing down like a tidal wave. By the end, she was bawling, clutching that letter to her chest like it could hold her together. In a panic, she snatched her phone and dialed me, but it went straight to voicemail. "Tom, please, call me back," she begged, her voice cracking apart. "I screwed up, I'm so sorry. Just come home so we can fix this." She fired off texts too, but they sat there unanswered, the silence on the other end sinking her deeper into despair that I crumpled to my knees, the letter all wadded up in my fists. For the first time, it really sank in, what I'd done, the permanent mess I'd made with my stupid choices, and it hit me like a freight train. When I walked back into the house, it was dead quiet, creepy as hell, my heels clacking loud against the hardwood. I stopped short, soaking in how unnerving it felt, no sound at all. Usually, I'd catch Tom's favorite tunes drifting soft from somewhere or the clatter of his tools out in the garage, but now? Nothing but this faint hum breaking the silence. "Tom?" I called out, my voice bouncing around. It sounded empty, like the house just swallowed it whole. This uneasy vibe started crawling up my spine as I dropped my bag by the door and stepped deeper inside. Didn't take long to spot something seriously wrong. The living room bookshelf, where Tom kept his stack of novels and little keepsakes, was damn near cleared out. That spot over the fireplace, where his uncle's Moonlight Bay painting used to hang? Stark naked now. My breath hitched, my chest tightening as it started dawning on me. "No way," I whispered, my heart thumping hard. I darted through the house, picking up speed, eyes flying around for more clues he was gone. In our bedroom, the closet laid it bare, Tom's side was empty except for a couple wire hangers dangling there, taunting me. His favorite watch, the one always parked on the nightstand? Missing. My shaky hands yanked open drawers, and every empty one screamed what I already knew, he'd bailed. Back in the kitchen, my gaze landed on an envelope sitting on the counter, my name scratched out in Tom's tidy scrawl. Underneath it, his wedding ring glinted in the light, a gut-punch reminder of the life I'd smashed to pieces. "No, no, no," I mumbled, tears spilling hot down my face. I snatched it up with trembling fingers and slumped into a chair. I just sat there a minute, too scared to rip it open. My head was spinning, maybe he's just taking a breather. Maybe he's cooling off somewhere. But that ring? It wasn't playing around, it was a done deal sign I wasn't ready to swallow. Finally, I unfolded it, my eyes racing over the lines. Every word stabbed deep, carving me up with Tom's hurt and heartbreak. "Claire," he'd written, "by the time you're reading this, I'm already out. You picked your path when you walked out, and now I've gotta pick mine. I can't stick around in a marriage where trust and sticking together don't mean squat anymore. I ain't the guy who sits home while his wife chases something else. You kept saying this was just about you, but you didn't give a damn how bad it cut me. I tried talking sense into you, Claire, begged you to think twice, to see what this do to us. But you brushed me off, said I was overreacting, wouldn't even look at how you were torching everything we'd made. I can't keep living like this. I'm done waking up wondering if my love and loyalty will ever add up for you. I deserve better than that, and hell, you do too. I took what's mine and left you the rest, this house is yours now. Our joint accounts? Cancelled. I've got my own set up, and my name's off the mortgage. The memories of us? Left, behind. But I'm walking away with my pride and a shot at a life where somebody actually values me. This ain't what I signed up for, Claire. I loved you more than I've got words for, but love don't cut it when trust's busted. Hope you find whatever you're after, but I won't be part of it. Goodbye, Tom. By the time I got through it, I was bawling my eyes out, the letter quivering in my hands. I read it again, praying I'd got it wrong, but it was crystal clear. Tom was gone, and he wasn't coming back this time. That I fumbled for my phone, hands trembling as I punched in Tom's number. It went straight to voicemail, no surprise there. Tom, I choked out through sobs, my voice splintering, please, I'm begging you, call me back. I messed up bad, I didn't see it, didn't get how much I was tearing you up. Just come home, please. I love you so much, I'd do anything to make this right. The quiet on the other end hit me like a wall. I dialed again, then once more, but every time, that same robotic voice answered, shutting me out. Panic clawed at my insides as I tapped out a text, Tom, I'm sorry, I love you. Just let me know you're okay, please. I stared at the screen, holding my breath for a reply that never showed up. The truth crashed over me like a relentless tide. This wasn't some spat we'd patch up. This was it, the end. Tom had laid it out, pleaded with me to think twice, and I'd blown him off. Now I was stuck here alone, facing the full brunt of what I'd done. I gripped his wedding ring tight in my hand, tears pouring down my cheeks. This house, once alive with our love and goofy laughs, felt like a cold, hollow shell now. For the first time, I really got how deep I'd cut him with my betrayal, how steep the price of my choices was. But it was too damn late. Tom was gone, and I had nobody to point the finger at but me. After Tom took off, my life unraveled fast. That email he sent out to our friends, family, and coworkers? It spilled the ugly truth plain as day. He kept it cool and measured, but the point was loud. Claire had screwed over their marriage, and Tom was done. My phone wouldn't quit buzzing that Monday morning. At first, I just let it sit, terrified of the judgment I knew was coming. But by mid-morning, the quiet got too heavy to bear. I cracked open my messages. Some folks tried to prop me up, but most were just digging for answers. Nicole, my best friend, rang me up right away. Claire, what in the hell were you thinking? She snapped, her voice sharp and wounded. Tom adored you, how could you chuck that out the window? I stumbled over my words, barely getting anything out. I didn't figure it'd blow up like this. I thought. Thought what? Nicole cut in, disbelief dripping off her. That Tom would just twiddle his thumbs while you ran off with some guy. You went full selfish, Claire, and now he's gone. The calls and texts from my family weren't any softer. My mom, who'd always had my back, sounded crushed. Claire, I brought you up to cherish love and loyalty. What happened to you? I don't even know who I'm talking to. How could you do this to Tom, to all of us? At work, the people who used to rave about my skills now just gave me these pitying side eyes. The office whispers never stopped, chipping away at the respect I'd earned as a sharp, confident leader. In one meeting, some junior accountant mumbled under his breath, "Can't hold her marriage together, but we're supposed to trust her calls?" It stung like hell, but I didn't bite back, just slunk off to my office to bawl alone. Ethan, the guy who'd sparked this whole disaster, was MIA. When I cornered him at work, he brushed me off cold. "I didn't sign up for your soap opera, Claire, this was your deal, not mine," he said, like it was nothing. The weeks after just ate me alive with regret. Nights were the worst. I'd sit in this empty house, drowning in leftovers of the life Tom and I had made. His laugh, the way he'd touch me, those goodnight kisses, they haunted me, looping in my head like a twisted taunt of what I'd trashed. I'd pull out Tom's letter a lot, running my fingers over his words, trying to soak in the hurt I'd dumped on him. His last line killed me every time. "I can't stay where trust and commitment don't mean a damn thing." It rang in my skull non-stop, a brutal reminder that wouldn't quit. My nights were stuffed with dreams of the good old days, road trips we'd taken, lazy nights sprawled on the couch, the way Tom's eyes used to lock on me like I was all he'd ever need. Waking up from that stuff felt like getting dumped by him all over again, a fresh kick to the gut every damn time. It wasn't just losing Tom that ate at me, it was losing who I used to be. I couldn't wrap my head around how I'd talked myself into thinking one quick thrill was worth torching everything we'd put together. I kept running through every fight in my mind, all those times Tom handed me a chance to back off, and I cursed myself for being too stubborn to hear him out. One night, I grabbed a pen and started a letter to him. "Tom," I wrote, tears blurring the ink as they dripped, "I screwed up big, I was selfish, totally blind, and I'll hate myself forever for wrecking us. You were my whole world, and I didn't see it till it was gone. If you could ever dig up some forgiveness for me, I'd be here waiting." But I didn't send it, couldn't. Deep down, I knew I hadn't earned that kind of mercy. Meanwhile, out there on the road, Tom was piecing his life back together bit by bit. That RV trip wasn't just him running away anymore, it turned into this trek to figure himself out. He'd pull into little nowhere towns, pick up random gigs to stay busy, and run into folks who showed him life could still have some shine, even after a heart got smashed. At this peaceful lakeside spot, he dusted off an old college habit, sketching. Putting pencil to paper, making something new, it was like medicine, a little nudge that he could keep going. Bitterness started melting off him over time, swapped out for this steady drive to build a life worth living. One night, under a blanket of stars, he sat by the lake and cracked a smile, first one in months. It wasn't full-on joy or anything, but it was something, a tiny spark saying maybe peace wasn't out of reach forever. Then there was that one time she'd hollered at him for not getting back up after Miss May, some random memory that stuck. Claire and Tom were both staring down roads with no clear end. Difference was, I was still sinking under all that regret, while Tom was starting to eye the horizon, ready to take on whatever rolled his way. Months went by, and I'd find myself cruising down twisty roads in that RV, each mile stretching the gap wider between me and the life I used to have. But Claire's ghost hung around, her smile, that laugh, even the stuff that drove me nuts would pop into my head. Still, every time I chewed on it, one thing stood out sharper, the trust we'd had was busted beyond fixing. On those calm nights, parked by peaceful lakes or under skies bursting with stars, I let myself sit with the hurt, no holding it back. I didn't shove down the sting or the rage, instead, I let them burn, using that fire to patch myself up. Comfort came in the little stuff, doodling the scenery around me, tossing a line in the water at dawn, or chatting up folks who didn't know a lick about my old life. Bit by bit, those moments started stitching me back together. Back at the house we used to call ours, Claire's regret just kept digging deeper. That place felt like a tomb for our love, every nook whispering about what we'd had. She'd rerun her choices in her head non-stop, kicking herself for not spotting the price tag, till it was way past due. Tom being gone left this hollow ache she couldn't stand, but knowing she'd caused it? That was the real killer. We were on different tracks now, and the gap between us couldn't have been clearer. Claire was stuck spinning in guilt and loss, while I was starting to lean into what's next. I made up my mind to chase some happiness, not by erasing her, but by finding myself again. One morning, watching the sun peek over a canyon, this quiet calm rolled over me. Life ain't about dodging the rough stuff, I figured, it's about pushing through it. For me, the mending had kicked off. For Claire, her choices hung over her like a shadow she couldn't outrun. 3 years ticked by, but for Claire, time hadn't done squat to fix the hole she'd carved into herself. The lively, outgoing gal she used to be was gone, now she lived this hushed-up, lonesome life. Work filled her days, and nights were spent in the stillness of the house Tom and I once shared. Every corner screamed with bright memories, the couch where we'd snuggle up, the kitchen where he'd fuss over dinner with that careful touch of his. Friends tossed out dating invites now and then, but she shot them all down. Moving on? Not a chance. Deep inside, she was still chained to Tom's memory, to the love she'd flushed away. She clung to this thin thread of hope that he might forgive her someday, even if she knew it was a long shot. Then one chilly fall morning, a knock at the door smashed through the shaky calm she'd pieced together. Some guy handed her an envelope, said, "You've been served," all polite-like, then took off. Her hands shook as she tore into the divorce papers. Tom's final call slammed into her like a last goodbye. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at those papers through blurry tears. No anger bubbled up, just this sad, tired acceptance. I grabbed a pen, scribbled my name, and whispered, "See ya, Tom. Hope you snag the happiness I couldn't hand you." Out there by a campfire, looking over a canyon, Tom wasn't even thinking about the papers he'd filed anymore. For him, that divorce was a door closing and a new one creaking open. As the sun sank below the edge, this deep peace settled in. The path ahead was still foggy, but it was mine, and that was plenty.